Yo, what's the word? It's your boy 16. If you like the content on this channel, I want to ask you to like, comment, and subscribe. And don't forget to click that bell for post notifications. Also, I got a website at www.16shotonvisuals.com. But that's enough of me talking. Let's get to what y'all came to see. What's the word? Let people know we got on 16 Shot on Visuals.
Adam22.
For sure. You know, this shit long overdue. We supposed to, I think did it the day we did the interview. Was probably busy or something.
Oh, right. We were supposed to do it all the way back then? Shit. All right.
First thing I want to ask you, this wasn't going to be the first question, but like, since it happened, like I want to ask you, like what happened with your face?
Oh, right. So, all right. I've been on this like hardcore exercise and diet grind. And there was one day where I stopped eating at like 5 p.m. and then I wake up at like 8 a.m. the next day after a full night's sleep. And it was the first day that my kid was back after a few days. And I just jump out of bed super fast. And like my whole life, I always had this thing where if I jump up and stand up too fast, I get kind of lightheaded. And I sometimes have to like grab the wall and like chill for like 3 seconds. And then I just feel fine, whatever. But for some reason, this time, I was carrying the cat too. I'm like in my underwear, holding the cat, running out into the living room to go fuck with my kid. And then I just fucking freeze and just pass out and just fucking slash my head open on like the edge of the door or some shit. So yeah, I had to go to the hospital and get 8 stitches. I'm gonna cut them out tomorrow. I don't know.
How was that process? Was it painful?
It wasn't that painful. The only painful part is when they just inject the numbing shit into it, but then the stitches themselves don't hurt.
Oh yeah. So like, let's talk about like your upbringing. You were originally from New Hampshire?
Nashua, New Hampshire, about 45 minutes outside of Boston. It's like a small city of like 80,000 people. There's like a million little cities like this surrounding the Boston area where, you know, people live who basically, you know, don't have enough money to live in Boston. And like a lot of people commute into the Boston area to work and stuff. But my mom was like a librarian for most of my childhood at a community college, and my dad was a social worker for like 20 years, and he worked for like a construction company, like getting them jobs for like 20 years. So pretty average upbringing.
So I was checking out like your I don't know if it's like your Reddit, but I know it's no jumper Reddit. But I was checking it out, and they were saying something like, ask about like, was your dad supposed to have like some type of involvement in Bill Clinton campaign?
Yeah, so when I was in 2nd grade or so, like 1992, my dad just was involved with local politics because he was an alderman, which basically is like there's a bunch of like people who kind of like make decisions about the city or whatever. It's like a pretty low level job. But my dad ran for mayor at one point and did not win. But he had his whole little period of time where he was trying to like do his thing with the local government and shit. So he was like a campaigner for Bill Clinton like super early on. So there's like pictures of me around Bill Clinton when I was a little kid and shit. And it's just like my dad campaigned for a ton of different like random candidates for governor, for president, all throughout my childhood. That was just like a normal thing, is that we'd be going and standing on a corner honking and holding signs and shit for like a candidate that my dad was supporting or whatever. And then Bill Clinton just ended up being the one who actually won the presidency. And so, you know, they had a little cool relationship for a period of time.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
You know, with your father into like the politics and stuff like that, how was it when you start, doing what you do, like even before the podcast, like just the BMX and maybe like getting the tattoos and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, my dad, honestly, like I was getting in so much trouble all through high school with graffiti and fighting and just stealing and all this shit that it was just like, I don't think tattoos were really that big of a worry to my dad. It was like, you know, because you got to think about it from his perspective. It's like, I drop out of high school, or I drop out of college after 2 years. I move to New York. What am I doing? He doesn't fucking know that I'm doing like identity theft, credit card shit, scamming and everything at that time, super early, like 2004. I'm like running around with other people's credit card information, doing purchases on laptops or whatever. But he didn't know about any of that. The first thing he knew of me making money doing was playing poker. So he's looking at that like thinking this is kind of a fucking weird, risky seeming thing to be making money doing. And then all of a sudden I'm like making money off a BMX website. He's like thinking, oh, that seems a little bit more ordinary or like understandable, you know? And then over the years, like honestly, he seemed like more proud when he saw me open a store than like all those years having a website that was doing well on a YouTube channel and stuff, because it's like he just got that, like, oh, there's like people here shopping that like you. They want to take pictures with you. That's so sick. So, I mean, yeah, it was kind of like it took a while before he kind of like really understood. And he still loves it. Like, he loves for me to break down the revenue streams and how we make money and everything, just because he's so interested in it.
Yeah. I think maybe when it's like a older generation, because even with I ain't gonna say my parents, but with my mother specifically, like, she didn't really understand what I was doing, and she was like telling me like, get a job, like, what the fuck are you doing, like, you tripping. But now it's like she my biggest fan. Like, was it kind of similar when you started the podcast with them, or at that point they felt like you knew what you was doing?
Yeah, like, because by the time I started the podcast, because, you know, I was doing my thing with the BMX site and everything, and it was going cool, but it wasn't like I was getting rich or anything. So then once the YouTube and the No Jumper thing really started to take off, that's when my parents started to be, you know, seemingly a little bit more optimistic about how everything was going. But I can honestly say that, like, my whole life since I was like 18, 19, when I dropped out of school, it's kind of been like a consistent rise, you know, like my finances or like where I've been at has kind of just, well, actually, to be real, it's like super flat until I start No Jumper. It's basically like I'm just kind of earning the same amount of money, and then No Jumper takes off and it's like, oh, okay, boom, now I'm actually making real money. Yeah.
So how long did that take as far as like building a No Jumper brand, where you felt like you started making more money than normal?
I mean, I think because like with the BMX channel, I was like fighting to make 10 grand a month. That was my goal. And I'm making like 3-4 grand a month every month on YouTube for years and years, just making BMX content, right? And like, I just couldn't get past that like level that I was kind of at. And it was cool because it's like, okay, this is like an additional revenue stream or whatever. But then I actually hit 10,000 a month. I had a couple of videos go viral in the same month, and I'm so geeked. I'm so happy that I finally hit it. But then at that same exact time making these BMX videos, I'm starting to have success doing the rapper interviews, and it's like, I just don't want to fucking go to the skate park anymore. I just don't want to go like ride and have to make these BMX videos. I want to fucking go to shows and go to events and like meet people, and like I'm really starting to like see the future of doing these interviews and shit. So around that time is when I just started going all in on No Jumper. And honestly, even by like 2017, because I remember in 2017 I was making like 50 grand a month off YouTube. I was doing a daily vlog every day, and I'm fucking doing interviews, like as many as I could possibly do. And then all of a sudden the adpocalypse hits and I'm making 5 grand a month. And then that's when I started going hard with like a lot of other things. I started doing merch real crazy. I started streaming and taking donations from the fans and everything. And I still kept going hard with doing the interviews, because I'm like, even if it's not really making money right now, I need to do this. I need to keep chasing this. And so, yeah, over even then, like over the last couple of years, it just kind of starts to keep making more and more sense, you know?
Yeah. See, I wasn't really into YouTube back then, but I remember seeing videos of you making videos saying like they demonetized my channel or something like that. So like, was that part of the apocalypse then, or?
Yeah, that's what it was. It's like a lot of people like me lost like 90 or 80% of how much money we were making on YouTube at the time. And it was pretty random, because I think I remember Academics telling me that he didn't really get much of a hit. So like that kind of blew my mind, that like you're doing content that is super similar to ours and you're not really getting hit. And my boy like Keemstar from Drama Alert, I remember him telling me that he didn't really get hit. And then like a year, 2 years later, like all of a sudden his channel starts getting hit. Like YouTube is just very all over the place, and I don't know. A lot of times I'm just lucky that I've even been able to survive on the platform up to this point with all the fucking weed and the chicks and whatever, you know?
Yeah. Because I think I used to see like big bags of weed and shit. I used to like, damn, how they?
Yeah, we used to like just do a podcast with a pound of weed sitting on the table, and then like start getting all those episodes demonetized, and I was like, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I could see that.
So like, what's the difference of the YouTube community like now versus like before the apocalypse? Like, has it got back to that same level, or is just?
Well, it was just like a time period then where you could do a lot more and get away with a lot more, and like you didn't really have to worry about censoring your titles, you know? Like I remember I got like 5 million views on a video that's still up called I vlogged my acid trip. Like I just went off in the woods with my friends and did acid.
About that now?
Yeah, it would be a tough title to get off now. And there's a lot of stuff like that. I mean, I all those threesome vlogs when I first met my girl and shit, that we were just doing the craziest shit. You could put sex in the title, you could put porn in the title, it didn't matter. And then obviously the media just started to take aim at YouTube, and all the advertisers got shook and they dipped out, and YouTube had to get super strict with the rules. And now it feels like we're at a more consistent place with YouTube, and obviously it's annoying as fuck when you have to upload a video 10 times trying to get it monetized, but
yeah. So how is like having children and shit like that for you now, fatherhood?
It changes everything, honestly, because like my whole life I was basically just focused on grinding and hustling, and I just had this thing in my head of like, I just have to make something out of myself, and I just have to figure it out. And then all of a sudden you have a kid, and it's like, oh, like I was so concerned with just hustling my whole life, and now I have this thing that is like a constant source of like me being preoccupied with her and me wanting to just spend time with her. And then I have to like constantly pull myself away from him and be like, no, you have to work, you have to grind. Because it's very distracting having this kid that is so fun to spend time with. It's so amazing. It's so heartwarming and like enriching to your soul to be around him. So it's like now I kind of feel like how like lazy people feel, like people who just want to sit around the house and like hang out with their family or whatever, which I never really got. Like it was always like the urge to grind was so much stronger. And so it's like I'm just, I take the weekends off to just be with the family now. It's like I gotta constantly figure out how to strike this balance now, and it can be kind of dicey, but I'm very focused on just being a good dad.
For sure. So like with you having children and some of the content and things you do, like do you ever think about that, or was that ever like a worry, like maybe like when your kids go to school they find out something from a kid or something like at the wrong time?
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be a reality check at some point that your parents do this, and hopefully we get to like slowly expose them to the idea of it. It's like, get her used to the idea of like, oh, mom is a model. And like then as time goes by, she figures out, oh, maybe mom takes photos with her clothes off sometimes. And then maybe at some point she figures out that mom has had sex with dad on camera, whatever. I don't know. I mean, it's also important to think that it's like, by the time my kid knows what the fuck's going on, I might not even be doing this anymore. My girl might not be doing this anymore. I mean, my girl's 31. I'm 38. It's like, realistically, I don't know how much longer I'm going to be doing this shit, or how much longer I'm going to feel like I have to do this shit. So I don't know. Maybe by the time she figures it out, it'll be like a thing that we used to do. But also, I'm not like ashamed at all of the fact that I do it. So it might be kind of a rocky conversation at some point. But I also know a lot of porn people who secretly have kids and don't really talk about it publicly. And they all seem to have got through it, and their kids seem pretty normal to me. So it might be a little different with my kid because, like, obviously we're public figures, like publicly parents and publicly porn stars. But yeah, I mean, I'm sure she'll get over it.
For sure. So how was that for you? You mentioned being a public figure. Like, did life become different as far as like what you can do and what you can say? Like things that normal people probably would be able to do and it'll be okay and accepted. But when you do it, it's like he knows better, or?
Yeah, I mean, I follow some people on Twitter who they have like 50 followers or like a couple hundred followers, and they just get to say whatever the fuck they want. And it's like a lot of times I find myself thinking like, damn, if I said that, my whole life would be on fire for the next week. And I mean, you could do that because it's like, if you want to just pop on Twitter and the night of a new album dropping, and everybody who's like, I'm just gonna use Nicki Minaj as an example. I like Nicki Minaj. I don't have anything negative to say about her. But if you say you thought she sucked, and you just hop on Twitter and just say like the worst thing you could think of about her, I mean, you could probably go viral. Like I could go viral anytime I want, just saying the worst thing about public figures. And I mean, some people don't mind. They like having their life be a big fucking dumpster fire all the time and just like putting their opinions out there. And they fake opinions. They'll just have like a more extreme opinion than their real opinion just to make controversy, I don't really like it that much. Like I don't really mind being shit on, but I don't really like invite it. I try to like, I like looking at my Twitter feed and being like, ooh, I haven't tweeted in a couple of days. That's tight. Like I haven't taken a chance at getting myself in trouble. Because every time you tweet, it's just big old chance that you're going to be dealing with it afterwards,
Yeah. So how you feel about like the cancel culture? Like, do you feel like it should be a place for that, like where people have that much power, just be like, all right, we canceling this person, or?
I mean, there's a place for it, for sure. Like, you know, when people get exposed for being disgusting, horrible monsters or whatever. But then there's also, like, the overreaction part of it, where it's like, you know, I've seen people just lose their entire careers over, like, some corny joke or, like, you know, playing into some stereotype a little bit. So it's like, you know, like the good version of cancel culture is just actual truth being spoken to power, and, like, people who are doing fucked up things having to be exposed to the world. And then the bad version is that exact same mechanism being exploited and exaggerated and used against anyone. And you hear about it happening all the time, where you'll fucking have some kid in college who's just, like, getting kicked out of college for having some boring ass opinion that, like, some woke kid disagrees with or whatever. So yeah, I think that, like, there's definitely a correction that's taking place in our society to a certain extent, where it's becoming less cool to cancel people. And, you know, like, think about what happened with Dave Chappelle. I felt like the majority of people, the vast majority of people, were laughing at the people who were trying to cancel him. You know?
I ain't gonna lie, I was surprised he survived it, seeing like how things be going.
Because if that was a few years ago, he might not have survived it. But I think things have gotten a little bit better in that sense, that, like, people realize how ridiculous and out of control it is. But then at the same time, I mean, there's a lot of people who get canceled that we don't get to hear about. The shit that happens in colleges and shit. Because it's like, yo, if you're famous, you can get canceled and sort of, like, make it through. You know, I know a lot of people who've been accused of the worst shit, like comedians and shit, and, like, yeah, they're not going to get a Netflix deal, but they can still tour, they can still do merch, they can still have a podcast, you know, and, like, they find a way to make it work. But, like, if you're a real nobody who gets canceled on some bullshit smear shit, if you don't really have, like, a fan base or a big social media following or a ton of people who love you, I mean, that shit can be really devastating, and those are the people that we don't really get to hear about that much.
Yeah. How you feel about, like, because I know you said, like, the cancel thing sometimes could be good, sometimes could be bad. Like, how do you feel about, like, how it would be used towards, like, Kanye or Kyrie Irving? Or let's start with Kanye, because that's too total.
Yeah, like with Kanye, I just feel like it's understandable to me what's happening to him to a large extent, because he's really, like, saying a lot of shit that is really actually, like, deeply offensive, like the George Floyd shit. Like, I thought him getting canceled for the White Lives Matter thing was kind of stupid, just because it's like, this is, like, a dumb, edgy, like, joke to me. This is not something that I find, like, sincerely offensive. But then, like, the shit about the Jews and stuff, I mean, like, he just seems so callous to the reality of, like, how dangerous it is to just be sort of, like, blaming a fucking ethnic group or a religion for the ills of society. And you have to understand that the Jewish people are mega on alert to people that they see as spreading anti-Semitism and making anti-Semitism cool, because they see what happens when that shit goes unchecked. And in recent memory, it was 6 million people being marched into fucking death camps in Germany. And so I understand why the Jewish community is so on point with not letting people fucking disrespect them. And I mean, I do see, like, especially with the Kyrie thing, it's like, it's starting to leave a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth with them just making him apologize 5 million fucking times, and it's like a list of demands and shit, because I feel like the blame for, like, conspiracy theories and shit is kind of unevenly spread, where it's like, you know, some football player dude who loves Donald Trump and fucking low-key supports QAnon and thinks that the election was stolen and shit like that. Nobody's making him fucking apologize for having that belief. But then meanwhile, Kyrie promotes a documentary that, to be honest, it seemed like Kyrie didn't really understand the extent to which that documentary could be considered offensive. You know, like, when they were questioning him about it, he didn't really seem like he got why Jewish people would be mad about it, you know? Which is, like, understandable, because he's not a fucking Harvard graduate. He's a basketball player. And it's left a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth to see them going so hard on him just for fucking tweeting a documentary. I don't know.
I keep seeing, like, the term anti-Semitic. What is that? Is that basically, like...
That's just a hatred of Jews.
All right, so, like, one thing that I noticed you had said, it was, like, some of the things Kanye said was, like, anti-Semitic. Mm-hmm. Which I see what people mean, but another thing I noticed that he been saying is basically, like, how can he be anti-Semitic if he is a Jew? Like, is that something that you believe, or do people just like denounce that?
Yeah, I mean, the idea that the blacks are the real Jews is just like a really stupid conspiracy theory itself. So I don't really think that there's much of a leg to stand on with that whole thing. But then, I mean, you know, Kanye, it's not like a real argument about if he's being anti-Semitic, because he said it. He said, Adidas can't cancel me for saying anti-Semitic shit. Like, he just said that. And that was actually a crazy moment for me, because I'm like, oh, he realizes that he's being anti-Semitic. Like, he's not kind of like hiding behind like another argument. He's like fully admitting it. And it's like, I mean, his whole grudge against the Jews is just fucking weird. And I feel bad for the normal fucking Jewish people that are probably having to deal with this shit. Some kid in high school's having to, you know, get shit from kids who think it's cool to sort of piggyback on what Kanye is saying, because it's not like every Jewish person is a fucking globalist, elitist banker. Like, all these people seem to be focused on spreading this like stereotype. And to me, it's kind of like old news, because I've been seeing this happen for years. I remember seeing Professor Griff from Public Enemy get canceled for saying some similar things to what Kanye is saying, and Ice Cube got it at a certain point, and Nick Cannon got it at a certain point. It's just like you're playing with a group of people that are very, very on point about making sure that their culture and that their religion does not get scapegoated for society's ills. And there's a lot of people who like to put the blame on them.
One thing I noticed, it seemed like a lot of communities that might have been like bullied or went through things, it seemed like in a way they got the power. Like, say for like gays, for example, people bullying them, doing what they do with them, and now like when you play with them, they got power. It's in a way they damn could bully you financially, like, you know, and with the Jews, what they went through, and you see how things are. Like, one thing I noticed when he said all that shit, he lost a lot of shit. So clearly, like, some type of power is there.
Right.
But I noticed, like, with African Americans, it's not really like that. And like, what would be your opinion, like, from what you see, like, would be the difference as far as?
I mean, I think when black people actually are offended by something, or really like make a concerted effort to like get somebody out of there. Like, we've kind of had this conversation in recent memory, like about fucking Donald Sterling from like some basketball team I don't even know the name of, and he lost, like, he had to sell the team and everything because he got caught on a phone call having a conversation where he's basically telling his girl not to take pictures with black dudes. And there's like a ton of other examples that we could think of situations in which people get canceled for being racist. But I mean, a lot of people try to draw attention to the argument of like, oh, well, nothing happened to Kanye when he said slavery was a choice. I think that is a situation where it's like a lot of black people were offended, but yeah, they didn't really have maybe enough of an organization to really be able to implement change. Because it's like, you could have a lot of angry black people on Twitter, but is Adidas going to drop him? I mean, I don't know. But I think there's a line he didn't cross with that slavery is a choice thing, where it's such a stupid thing to say, and it's so offensive, but it's just like weird and kind of hard to make sense of. You know, you just like think about it and you're like, how the fuck could it be a choice? But it's kind of different than saying like, I'm going to go DEFCON 3 on the Jews, which I think a lot of people took that a lot more literally. And it's also like, how could Kanye, a black man, get canceled for anti-black statements? You know, like that probably just wasn't going to happen, you know? I don't know.
I'm going to pull some new shit. Speaking of Kanye West and, you know, like the White Lives Matter movement, how you feel about Bandman Kevo getting a White Lives Matter?
I mean, I need to hear him speak on this because I don't understand at all. Didn't he have like a MAGA hat dude on there, like Donald Trump as well, I think?
Oh, yeah, Kanye.
Hey, Kanye and Trump and stuff. Yeah, I mean, I got to hear Bandman Kevo talk about what he exactly likes about all this so much, or why he wants to have White Lives Matter on his skin. That's interesting to me.
I think it's just like an attention thing. Like some people just know when they do things, what's gonna happen. The reaction's gonna be everywhere.
Right.
Like I damn near feel like he about to do like a Black Lives Matter leg on the other leg or something like that, and then try to fix it. Cause I noticed Kanye do things like that. He says things, and I feel like he know the reaction he gonna get.
Right.
And then he know him getting that reaction is his opportunity to get all the eyes to say what he really want to say, or
Social media makes people do some crazy things because, you know, you could just get a tattoo that's crazy as fuck and all of a sudden be getting millions of views the next day on social media. You know, you've seen it with Krishan, you know, them blue face tattoos. I mean, that made her way more famous. Yeah, but I'm sure Bam Makeba wouldn't be like, yeah, I'm just doing it for clout. He definitely has to have some kind of reason. So I got to hear it before I can really pass judgment. But yeah, that's some crazy shit.
So what would be your definition of a culture vulture? Because I feel like that might be something you probably go through, people saying that with you being white in the hip-hop industry, shit like that.
Culture vulture, I mean, I look at like Hip Hop Daily and some of these YouTube channels that are like just straight up just like stealing the work of other YouTube channels.
I get
that
shit
to me,
took down every time.
You do? Really?
Unless it depends on how they do it.
Okay, but you're talking about them re-uploading your actual content. That is easy. What is more fucked up is like, you know, 1090 Jake will make a video about some crazy ass murder or whatever, or Traplo Ross will do it, or whoever. And then like there's just other channels on YouTube that will just crib the information, take notes, make a video, rehash the exact same thing, put some more extreme clickbait on it, whatever, and get hella views. I feel like somebody like that is a culture vulture. I think when I hear about people who are basically just like, you know, scumbags in the music industry, just giving out terrible deals to young artists, you know, as a place for like, you know, beginner deals that are not as lucrative or whatever. Or when I hear about sort of PR companies that'll take 10 grand, 50 grand, whatever it is from an artist and then just like really not do shit for them. That to me stands out as like a culture vulture type thing. When I look at what I do, I make great content that entertains millions of people. And yeah, I'm white, but I know a lot more about rap than damn near everybody who ever called me a culture vulture. So it's like, you know, there's a reason why they watch me and there's a reason why they don't watch these people for the most part, I would think. Because, you know, there's a lot of people who've been complaining for a long time on Twitter and shit about me, Vlad, academics, whoever. And then meanwhile, like, who have you really seen, like, rise up out of that to, like, really make something that appeals? Like, if they're so much better at doing this content than us, then just fucking do it. But, you know, you don't really see a lot of that. It's a lot easier to complain, you know?
Yeah.
Pass the buck.
I like Vlad shit. I feel like he get like a lot of slack for things. And like they might say like he the police or this or that. But like how I view it is he not a street guy. He don't portray to be a street guy. He's a white guy doing interviews and he's asking questions. Like I feel like if you was to call him the police, you gotta call whoever in front of that camera a snitch.
Right. Because
you putting on a wire, you getting on the camera, they asking questions and you answering them.
See, because Vlad got that reputation though when he was like a white guy and he's the only one doing this. He's the only one cutting up clips of, you know, salacious sort of titles that tell you exactly what's in there. He was doing that at a time where everybody else is doing an hour-and-a-half long interview and they're just uploading it. And like even me, I was writing the Ugly God interview. I wasn't writing Ugly God talks shit about everybody. Not that he did, but like, you know, like it's just like Vlad was very early on that. And it's funny because everybody called him a culture vulture for it. But now you got hella black dudes who do the exact same thing. And not just black guys, everybody in the fucking culture is doing like the best titles that they can and cutting shit into clips and everything. But then for some reason, like, you know, Sean Cotton does the exact same thing. You do the exact same thing as Vlad. And like, you know, nobody thinks to throw that accusation on you guys, which I don't think that accusation should be on you guys. And yeah, there are differences, you know, there's like maybe Vlad says some shit that you wouldn't say or vice versa. But I mean, you know, Vlad reminds me all the time of the fact that he just takes this shit super serious. We were just having a conversation about Tax Stone, who was like one of the early podcasters and he's like a real street dude from Brooklyn. And I don't know if you know, but he basically allegedly shot somebody backstage at a rap show, killed him. And then he's been sitting in jail for like 5 years ever since, just waiting trial. And, you know, Vlad did an interview with him right before he got locked up by the feds or whatever. And Vlad never put the interview out. And Vlad got mad stories like that to me. And I got mad stories like that nobody gives a shit about. Of us like, you know, interviewing somebody, doing the spiciest, craziest interview. And then their fucking lawyer finds out they did an interview and they don't want us to drop it and we don't drop it. It's like, we don't get any credit for that. But meanwhile, if I fucking, God forbid, I mention a BD to a GD, I'm getting hell for that.
I ain't gonna lie, I think it's like pros and cons to it though. Like, for example, like me doing an interview with a BD and GD, they're not gonna call me a culture vulture. This is my culture. But like me doing an interview with a BD and GD, I might get a death threat. I don't know if it'd be like that for you. Like I remember I showed you a situation, and I showed you, and I was like, "Do you ever go through this?" And you was like, "Fuck no," and I'm like, "I'm doing the same shit," and you see the reaction. So it's like people will be quicker to get on that type of time. So it's like it's like a pros and cons type thing.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, like I mean, I could see that. Like I mean, the main YouTuber that people talk about when they talk about the idea of a YouTuber getting killed is Zach TV.
For sure.
And so, you know, that's a black guy. And but he was really out there in the field too. You know, he's like really in this environment and stuff. Yeah, and it was weird seeing that too, because the person who said that to you, who basically, you know, we're kind of alluding to a DM where somebody damn near told 16 they were going to turn him into a pack. That person wouldn't say that to me because they're thinking I'm a civilian. Why wouldn't I? If he's a thing in person, he's thinking, why wouldn't I tell the cops? You know? Now, in reality, you could tell me you're going to kill me, and like, you would probably have to make the threat incredibly realistic for me to even consider actually tattling on you. But yeah, that is kind of a possibility. And if my house gets shot up and you told me earlier in the day that you were going to shoot up my house, yes, I am going to tell the cops exactly what happened. And they probably don't think that you would do the same thing. So I guess, you know.
I got to start telling people I'm a snitch.
I mean, yo, because there are a lot of people who are not going to do anything to Charleston White because he's proudly saying that he would snitch. And if somebody's telling you that they're going to play police games, then why would you want to hit him in that certain way? For sure. But yeah, when I read that DM that you're talking about, that was definitely like, oh, damn, yeah, I've never really had a rapper hit me like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I be trying to look at it like when it came to me, it was so random to me. Like, it was like nothing happened. Like, so it's kind of confusing. It'd be like, what did I do? But that's old though. It ain't really nothing serious.
Right.
But another thing I had noticed, I'm not sure if you do it on purpose because I know I'm starting to learn things now. Like once people like start doing interviews about me, shit like that.
Right.
I start to notice things that I did that I didn't notice before. And one thing I noticed, Joe Budden mentioned it too. He was like, you mention me a lot, which I don't have an issue with that. But like, I think he felt like you might have been doing it on purpose or trying to, I don't know what.
Talking about him?
Yeah, but I noticed that with me too, which I ain't have an issue with that. But it's like I be trying to get like, what's your angle? Like say like the situation I told you about, and then you interview somebody from his neighborhood and then ask like, you know, what's the 16? Like I be wondering like, are you expecting them to say something crazy?
But I didn't say anything about knowing the actual thing that he said, right?
No, you never.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, with me, I be looking at it like maybe if you know the situation and then he from here, you think let me ask him something and think he's just gonna say something crazy.
Yeah, I mean that is good because you know things behind the scenes and you want to know what people are willing to say about people on camera. So you do want to poke the bear sometimes and just find out, like, how far are they willing to go here? What are they willing to say about this person on camera? Is it just behind the scenes, or are they going to actually tell you what they think of them on camera? So, yeah, I mean, like, but to me, that's just like, if you're a public figure, like, I can't hold it against Bootleg Kev. Bootleg Kev had mad rappers on the show where he just asked them, like, hey, so I heard you have a problem with Adam. Like, what's the deal with that? And he knows, that's my friend. He knows exactly what he's doing, And it's like, there's an extent to which you have to be careful about that too, though, because it's like when they're saying, there's been like weird shit that's been debunked about you or whatever, but I'm not going to ask somebody about that because it's like, I don't know what the fuck the deal is with that, But in terms of just asking somebody what they think of another content creator, I mean, that's what you signed up for as soon as you start making YouTube videos, It's like you're kind of signing up to be a part of the conversation. And like the reality is that when that runs out, that's when you got to be worried. That's like even if I was annoyed by Vlad talking about me with somebody, it's like I guarantee I'd be way more annoyed if down the road Vlad doesn't see a reason to talk about me with anybody anymore because I'm not fucking relevant, So
yeah,
that's just how I think of it.
That's how I feel about it for the most part too. But like one thing I noticed you had said, like, if you're a content creator, this and that, of course I'm mentor you, but you don't feel like with certain situations, it's just like it might be dangerous or like might make things worse. Like say for example, the message I showed you, and then you do an interview with that person, ask him about me. Like knowing like how serious that message was, you don't think like it's not a good idea. Because sometimes I do the same thing. I know how that shit works, so I ask somebody about somebody. But even when I do, I try to steer them in a positive way. I try to ask a question in a way where if they don't answer this positive, they're gonna like a hater. Like when I interview Von and I asked about Duck, I basically put it like, you know, with Duck signing the deal, able to take care of his family and you know, maybe change his life for the good, like how do you feel about it? And I feel like if he would have said anything bad, he gonna look like he hating.
Yeah, but like, that's you being a troll by saying something positive about his ops, knowing that he is forbidden by the street code to congratulate somebody on doing something good for their family.
If you're real or not though, because if you're real, you're gonna keep it 100 and be like, you know, I respect that. But if you're a hater, you're gonna.
But you're asking him about somebody that he's dissed 1,000 times in his songs.
No, this was before that.
Oh, he hadn't even talked about him yet?
Yeah, like I knew what side Von was from, but I honestly didn't know like
how deep it was and who exactly you didn't like. I
just knew stories.
Because I did an interview with Tato where I brought up Duck. It never came out. I didn't know that was like that. Because like the way he reacted was like, I don't know who that is. What? No. It's just like completely shut it down like 100%. But yeah, I mean like the thing about that though is that I feel like if there's somebody who doesn't like you and I bring you up in the interview and ask them what they think of you, I don't think that necessarily in and of itself antagonizes the situation, right? Because they don't.
The way you act though.
Well, yeah. It's definitely it's about what you ask. Like, or it's about how you ask.
Like say if you ask him about me, but you asking like you just don't know what you asking. But the whole time, it's like in the back of your head, you setting it up. Like, you don't think that's like kind of like dangerous in a way with certain situations or certain people? Because it's like me, like say if you was arguing academics. I asked you about that because I don't feel like you're going to try to kill academics. Or I don't feel like academics going to try to kill you.
Right.
I think like if y'all see each other, y'all might fight, argue, whatever. But I don't see that. So like stuff like that, I think it's cool to do.
But see, that's the thing I guess about it is that I can't really think of a realistic reason why the person in question would actually want to do something violent to you. So I guess I didn't really like conceive of it like that because to me, it's like if you're a YouTuber or you're a public figure in this space, then you have to accept that you're just going to get talked about. And you are a kind of interesting case study that I think is like worth mentioning to Chicago rappers because you are literally from it. And the number one criticism of me or Ak or Vlad or whatever is that you're not from it. So you're actually from it. So it is a totally different dynamic in terms of like how you are kind of accepted within these spaces and stuff. And especially with you biting off like spicy ass content like the Cairo interview that you know is going to really kind of be divisive. It's going to make some people love you. It's going to make some people hate you. I mean, this is the stuff that needs to be discussed, right?
Yeah, but like with that, even with that interview, why you feel like people should hate me? Like I put my opinion out or like I said like these things about her. Like people don't even realize that's literally my favorite rapper from the city. Like me hearing that in an interview, all that was shocking to me. Like how people watching the interview and they
so
like,
you didn't know going into it that there was gonna be anything like that?
Like when I was talking to Cairo, I thought we was gonna talk about the McDonald's story. And then he got to telling me like, and I'm gonna go in on motherfuckers, like I'm finna put motherfuckers on blast. I'm not knowing who or what. Hurt. Like I started to find out, like as people watching and finding out, I'm literally like, so it's like cause I seen you say that a few times, like you probably created enemies. I'm like, why or how would I create an enemy with me not knowing?
See, that's a good point, but I mean, there's a lot of dick riders out there that just wouldn't have put the interview out. I'm gonna be real with you. I'm not one of them, because to me, it's like, I could do an interview. Well, if I think that they're being fair, if I think they're being like enormously unfair to the person that they're talking about, it might be kind of different. And especially if I have a reason to care about my relationship with that person. Like if you have a reason to think they're lying, but I mean, that was the reason that it was fucked up with Cairo, is that it didn't really seem like he was, and I fuck with her too, but it didn't seem like he had a reason to be lying or that he was lying. You know, it kind of felt like he was just being real with us, which was, you know, again, nothing against her, but it was kind of mind-blowing. But yeah, I didn't know that you didn't know that he was going to say any of that, because that does kind of change the dynamic. But also, it doesn't really matter, right? Because, like, I did all the Selena Powell interviews, and she's talking about fucking some banging out this fucking celebrity, yada, yada. And it's like, I didn't know she was going to say that shit. I didn't know that she was going to bring Keith's baby mama on to talk about, what's his name, fucking football player smelling her dirty ass and all this shit. But I 1,000% took the blame as if I fucking coordinated and planned out this whole
You
conversation.
still dropped it.
Oh no, it was live, so
Oh,
it was even worse. Yeah, because your shit wasn't live, so you don't really have that excuse. But
it's like, what I supposed to do? Like silence him?
no, I don't blame you either, because I probably would have. Yeah,
And then
I
it's
would,
like I'm watching them like hell. It's like damn, I don't want to, but it's like hell yeah.
How'd you feel when 1090 Jake said that you interviewed Kevo's ops and that they were liars and they were the real snitches or whatever? Because that's a weird position to be in, is if you interview somebody and then you end up finding out afterwards that they might not be necessarily telling the truth, right?
Not too weird, because it's like I'm not the news. It's like I'm not the place to go to get like the news and shit. Like I interview people, I ask them their stories, their questions. Like I don't, like me interviewing you, I don't know if you telling me the truth or a lie with these questions. You know?
Sure.
So it's like if you get on there and lie, it's not me vouching saying this is the truth. It's really entertainment.
But you know what it is that your channel as a whole gets perceived as like the cumulative, product of every person you talk to. So it's like, you look at some channels that like really just interview exclusively like goofy ass, loser ass rappers, and you view them a certain way, And it's like, I'm not saying that these dudes are in that category at all, but like, it's kind of like you make the decisions, like if you want to platform somebody that's going to talk shit about Herbo probably not going to come on your podcast. And, that's the reality. Like it
depends though, because some people understand how that shit go. And
some people could have enough respect for your craft that they would understand, but in that case, Herbo has a lot of opportunities of different people he could do interviews with. So I kind of assume that he's just going to take that one personal.
I can see him not working with me because it's like, how you say, it's so many more opportunities. But I don't feel like it's no issue.
But that is kind of,
they never made me feel it was like.
Do you feel like, because in theory, Polo G should be dying to do a Sissy shot him interview, and Chief Keef should be.
He actually reached out to me to do one.
Yeah. Just because I'm saying like the biggest Chicago rappers, in theory, if they were annoyed by academics doing the war in Chirac, they should want to fuck with you since you're like really from this environment, right?
Yeah, honestly, like
I don't know.
For the most part, a lot of people do though. Like I feel like maybe the Dirks, the Chief Keefs, all them, I don't really have a relationship with them. But if you look at it, like they been did this shit and been gone and been left. Like the people I'm working with is like a new generation. Like it's the like I'm catching people like the King Vons and shit. Like I'm catching the newer people, and most of them I have good relationships with. It's like it's not like so like a person that I feel like I would have had a good relationship with. Like he reached out to me, asked me, do I shoot music videos? I said yeah. Then he asked about the interviews, and we set it up. I ended up doing a video for some people.
Oh, this is the Polo G thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I forgot about that. Yeah.
So like shit like that made me stop shooting diss videos because it showed me like I could lose opportunities. That was probably the only diss video I shot, and the last one. Like I might have shot videos where slight disses in it, but not a full on just, So like
it's crazy though, because you think about it, Cole Bennett is basically like the most successful media type person to come out of Chicago in recent memory, and he came up basically 100% like while the drill scene was moving, and he never touched it. He just never really got involved with it. Never got to see Cole Bennett go to O Block. You never like
he worked with Dirk and
he worked with Dirk, right? Yeah, but I mean,
it's just
it's not like he was like really trying to involve. I think he probably made a pretty smart move by kind of
I don't know his work for real until he popped, so I don't know like how he came up.
He came up with like SoundCloud rappers, Famous Dex, Pump, all that shit was kind of like the beginning, and then he
that's the thing though,
transitioned into anyone.
A lot of people work with what they got access to. The reason my content is what it is because that's what was around me. So I just turned lemons to lemonade. Yeah. But like if I was around fucking actors and this and that and that and that, that's what I would have been doing.
Right.
But like now I try to branch out to it, but it's like the what's the word, like the niche is so strong with this. It's hard to go to that type of shit, but
they know what they want.
Yeah. That's another thing. How you feel about people who they might judge you for what you put out, but they don't realize it's supply and demand. Like the reason we doing this is because this is what you want.
Right.
Like it might be what you want too, but
I don't think you can just like strictly say, oh, supply and demand about everything, because it's like there's a demand for fake news. There's a demand for, fucking violent, disgusting porn that is illegal and that you would have to go on the dark web to get, right? It's like we can't just say like there's a demand for it, so therefore it must be produced, And so I think we have to keep that in mind that, I think a lot of things that people do, like I think putting fucking you know, I think posting Takeoff's dead body and PNB Rock's dead body and all this shit, I think is way over the line. I think people should have a little bit more discretion and just not do shit like that. Is there a demand for it? Yeah, clearly. And like, you know, there's always going to be somebody to supply it, because if it ain't a bigger page, you know, you don't see me and Academics posting PNB Rock's dead body, but that doesn't stop everybody from seeing it anyway, because somebody with 10 followers is still going to get 50,000 retweets if they post it, you know? So, yeah, I mean, it is like that, of like, you can't just mindlessly give the people what they want, but also you definitely have to be concerned with giving the people what they want, you know? And like, a lot of my biggest successes have been interviews that were not heavily demanded interviews, and that everybody who saw it in their feed was like, what the fuck is this? And then it just ended up being gigantic. I mean, yeah, I mean, incentives are important for sure, but you also got to like have a bigger purpose for your channel than just doing whatever to get views, you know? Like, ultimately, that if that's the only thing guiding the ship, it can lead you into some bad places.
So how you feel about Academics? Like when he go live and try to get in your employees' heads and tell them like, "Oh, you making this? You need to be making that."
I mean, I think he's just fucking around. I talk to Ac all the time, and you know, I mean, to be honest, anybody who wants to have conversations about getting paid anything at other places, they're perfectly fine to have those conversations. And I think, you know, they don't really take it super serious. It's not like AD had a real, you know, conversation about how much money he makes with Ac on stream or whatever. So I don't mind him doing it, because it's like, you know, realistically, if he had 10 dudes under him and it was like the DJ Academics version of No Jumper with all these other guys doing podcasts and shit, we would probably be talking about the drama between them and shit too, and that probably will happen one day and shit. So I mean, it's just realistically, like, this whole business is just everybody fucking talking about each other, and sometimes I kind of feel like I'm sincerely over it, but you know, for the most part, it's just like, this is the game. Like, this is what we signed up for. We signed up to be talked about and to talk about other people, and it just is what it is. You know?
That's what I learned. Like, I ain't realize it. Honestly, I ain't realize it until like after that interview with Flacco, because like when that situation happened, I ain't say nothing about it. I just went to the house, but I noticed before I even made it to the house, y'all was loud talking about it, and I'm like, damn.
Oh, we talked about it before it even came out, right? Yeah.
And then I just started seeing people doing that everywhere. But then I caught on like, there's money in this shit. Fuck it, I'm about to talk about it. Right. And I did a video, but like, I ain't really started seeing this type of shit until I came to LA, for real. Right. And I'm starting to see it now with the bloggers though, from the city, but I wasn't used to that. Like, people like just talking about shit all day.
Yeah, I mean, you ever search your name and just like, you see like 100 people just getting like 100 views each, just like making a video, like a 40-minute video talking about you, and you're just kind of like, damn, like, there's a lot of fucking people out there trying to be YouTubers. And like, sometimes I'll search my name and I'll still see people making videos about like Joe Budden and Adam22 face off about fucking making gang videos or whatever. And I'm like, you really think you're gonna get views like 4 months later, or like however long ago that was? I'm like, that's crazy that you like are really trying to use this still. Like, if you were smart, you would have done it like the day of that the shit coming out. Like, if you want to really get views, like, unless you're bringing something new to the table, you pretty much got to talk about it like the day it happens, or like, unless you're so famous that you have to that people want to hear you talk about it so bad that they are gonna listen to you talk about it a month later. But for the most part, I mean, like, literally a Will Smith, Chris Rock video right now, like, that's sad. You see somebody trying to get some views doing that, you're like, oh my God.
But them doing an interview?
Nobody's clicking on that. What are you talking about? Yeah, that shit old. Like, yeah. I don't know.
Well, like you say, if they got the name, it works, because if they do an interview together, then it's something crazy.
Yeah. Or if you just, hey, I mean, like, listen, Vlad and Boosie, like, I see them getting mad views talking about shit that happened 2 months earlier, because they do their fucking interviews like every month or two, right? And it works for them. I guess like Boosie's so lit that people really tune in 2 months later to hear him talk about some shit. I understand.
So how is it dealing with, you know, a job where you got to talk about everything, and then like having friends and shit like that? Like, have your job ever like caused friendships to end or cause friction?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, even, you know, Lil Pump called me fucking screaming on me and calling me a piece of shit because I fucking I don't even know what I said, but I guess I said something that made it sound like I thought he fell off on a podcast or some shit, and he couldn't handle that. He was pissed. So, I mean, that's somebody that I like came in the game with that I'm like supposed to be super tight with, and he's basically just like FaceTiming me at like 8 in the morning telling me to fuck myself, you know? It's just like, the reality is if you're going to be having honest conversations every day on camera, it's going to limit the number of people who fuck with you, because it's like you're just going to have to be real at some point. And it's like, you know, honestly, the people who get to be the most free with their opinions are the people who just 100% do not give a fuck about being friends with anybody. And I really respect a lot of journalists and shit, like traditional journalists, New York Times type people who they'll write a bad album review about you, and they don't give a fuck if you're going to be looking at them funny next time you see them or whatever. Like, they accept that's part of their job, is that they're going to have to shit on some heroes here and there, you know? And I respect that. But then for me, it's kind of something in between where, you know, like even like, you know, The Game, I did like a really great Game interview, and then The Game album come out the next week, and he dissed Eminem, and it was like a 10-minute song, and nobody liked it. And it's like, I got to talk about it on camera like right after I just had this like really heartfelt 2-hour conversation with him. But it's like, end of the day, if me and The Game are going to be cool, let's say like somehow, maybe I move to Calabasas, we become best friends, we're neighbors. We can't be friends unless I could say that a song was whack on the podcast, you know? And I'm going to do what I can to be cool to you if I'm going to talk about it or whatever. If you're my friend, I'm going to not gang up on you or bully you or tease you or clown you or whatever, but I am going to have to keep it real. So I can't be friends with somebody unless they can let me keep it real, you know?
So would you say that's how it works with the No Jumper team? Like, do everybody like got an understanding of that so it works, or does sometimes people still be like, man, you ain't have to?
I mean, they are all over the place, because like somebody like AD, you know, the chat picks up on it. They'll call him out. They'll say like, AD, you're not being real about this. You're not giving your real opinion about this person or that person or whatever. You know, it's a real concern, because it's like, you know, he's friends with a lot of like real deal celebrities, and then it's like, it's gotta be awkward, right? You're friends with Trey Songz, and then Trey Songz is getting accused of all crazy ass shit. You know, it's like an awkward position for him, but he's figuring it out, learning, you know, because it's like he wants to be the best broadcaster he can, but at the same time, you got to juggle his friendships and shit. So it's a little bit more complicated with him, because he really be in the clubs and shit. Maybe not like right now, but in general, where I was like, I'm not really outside like that anymore. Like, I don't ever see these fucking people in real life and shit. But at the same time, I want to interview them. Yeah. So I have a reason to not try to be, I try to just be respectful of everybody for the most part, unless I really hate them, you know?
So is it hard, like, getting certain interviews with you being honest with things like that?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, I just accept that. But at the same time, it's like the person who's able, like if your sole mission in life was to do as many good interviews as you can, the best thing you could do would be to basically like hide your own personality and your own private life and everything. Like think about somebody like Nardwuar. Nardwuar gets the biggest fucking interviews with top level rappers. None of us know anything about his private life. None of us know anything about what he's doing when he's not doing these interviews with J. Cole and whoever the fuck else. Is very smart. Like, I don't know how conscious it is, but he gets huge interviews and he hides, you know, he very much keeps everything else in his life pure so that you only see Nardwuar as a really great interviewer, which is smart. With me, there's a ton of baggage.
Yeah.
You down to sit here and talk to a porn star? Fucking white boy, culture, vulture, I don't know. You know, like there's all kinds of shit that comes along with me, like baggage, you know?
You know what I was thinking about doing? Like with, before I actually started doing the interviews, I was actually thinking about doing this, and this might have been a good idea. I was just gonna do the interviews, no voice, and just ask certain questions, and then type it out on the screen, just let the person respond. And there's no identity. Like, there's no way you could hate on this brand. It's just the brand.
And I remember when I first started watching Vlad, it was a little bit more like that. You just ask the question and just get out the way and just let them answer it and not really be talking to them that much. And then as time went on, the thing is that if I'm really going to do a great interview with you,
can't do that.
It's going to be hard for you to open up to me unless you can kind of relate to me and like you really believe that I'm a real person. And like, you know, a lot of people, like you see the best version of them in an interview is because they really respect the interviewer, you know? And it's like a lot of times you won't really get that respect unless they learn about you. And like when I'm interviewing somebody, it's like I don't want to tell them a ton about myself in the interview. I don't want to make it about me. But a lot of times I do feel like the most intimate moments that I'll get with somebody, a lot of times is when I really share something with them. They're talking about their kids. I start talking about my kids. They realize that I actually get what they're going through. And then all of a sudden we're vibing on a level that we probably wouldn't otherwise. So injecting your personality into it, it is kind of important. Could you go tell them that they should just go live without me? Like AD and house phone and stuff? Like I would do it right now, but I don't have my phone on me. Because I would like to keep doing this. But just tell them I'm going to be like 20 minutes late or something.
Yeah, I be catching myself doing that sometime. Like, you know, my typical thought process, like how an interview will go, is just me just asking questions and getting answers. But then I catch myself like giving my own stories and shit. But then I have to catch myself like, all right, back to the interview.
Right.
But I think like a podcast might be different, right? Like,
yeah, and it depends like what you want to do and how like what you want your format to be, you know, in the sense of like, you know, you can watch Joe Rogan interview somebody and he'll do a 4-hour interview with someone and he'll talk to them about some random sport or some movie he saw one time or just fucking whatever. Yeah, I know. I said that they should start without me and they'll come in like 20, 30 minutes. Oh, my bad. But yeah, like for me, I like to really kind of like get to the point in the interviews. Like I really want to, if I'm going to do an hour-long interview with you, I want to really try to like fill it to the brim with the most information and the most interesting shit that we can. I want to really respect my my audience's time, you know? And that's something that I think a lot of streamers and stuff kind of miss, is that they'll do a 3-4 hour thing with somebody. And yeah, it's like the clips end up being like a big percentage of people who see it and everything. But for me, it's like I'm trying to put together a nice polished package, you know? And so my style is to kind of just be like really focused on learning about the person. But I also, sometimes I do like a 3-hour fucking interview where all of a sudden I'm just talking about myself a ton. It's kind of all over the place. I feel like I have many styles that just kind of emerge.
I always wondered about the Cuban doll situation. Like, when she walked out, was you expecting her to walk out after you asked that question, or?
Okay, so like her walking out was pretty similar to Black China walking out in the sense that like they were just giving me an abysmal interview, and that then at some point I just kind of started like trolling and just asking like annoying questions because I was just so over the way the interview was going. And so with her, it's like I just wanted to give her a hard time. I just wanted her to like be real with me, just like tell me something. And she was just being so boring that I just started like ask her about the, you know, we kill people thing, or, you know, I kill people, whatever the fuck that Trippie Redd song with Tato was or whatever. And I don't know, yeah, she just got pissed off and she walked out. I don't know if I really expected it. I think that was the first time that ever happened to me. And then Black China did it too. And that was way more obvious that it was going to happen, because like she was just being like even far worse than, like she was being way meaner and weirder than Cuban Doll, you know. Like Black China was giving me nothing. It was awful.
So would you say like them walking out, then it was like the best thing that could have happened, as far as like, all right, now it's gonna get some views? Yeah,
because nobody's gonna click on a like 19-minute Black China interview that's just like the worst fucking interview. Like, what am I gonna call it? The worst Black China interview ever? People might actually watch that, to be honest, but them walking out is like nice, like, because that actually works. Like people will tune in to watch somebody get fed up and walk out. I'm not going for that, but at least it's like a better result than, you know, just a shitty interview. Like it ending with some kind of bang is a lot better, I think. Yeah.
You had a story about like a person that was like a lit SoundCloud rapper, and they delivered you some food on DoorDash.
Yeah.
You mind speaking about that situation?
I'm not going to name him because it's like I'm not trying to shame a normal dude for having a normal job, but it is kind of weird to see somebody who, you know, it's like a dude who's like doing millions of views at one point, and, you know, and it's not just that. It's like, this is a dude who I seen talk shit about me. Like, and I don't know him from a can of paint, never hit him up for an interview, never publicly acknowledged his music at all. And all of a sudden he's like, you know, delivering the DoorDash, and he got fucking his SoundCloud and his bio on fucking DoorDash, which I didn't even know you could have a bio. My girl had to show me that. He ordered it off her, or it was on her phone, So like people, when I said that, people were like, "Did he know it was you?" And I'm like, "No, thank fucking God, it was my girl's phone, so I didn't have to go out." Like, you know, I wasn't gonna go out there either way. I was like, "I'm not going out there. You could go out there," but yeah, you know, I can't hate on anybody for having a normal job, but it's just kind of funny because it's like doing this. There'll a lot of times be a rapper that you want to interview, and they think they're lit as fuck, and they're just like not fucking with you because they think they're too cool for you. And then you fast forward like 2 years, and they're just done. No opportunities, zero. And they either want to fuck with you, or like they're not even smart enough to know that they should probably be trying to fuck with you. So to me, it's like there's a lot of people who hate on me, and I just never say anything about it. But I saw this fool working for Postmates, and I was like, yeah, all right. It is what it is.
Is it a rapper that like you really want to work with that you probably never will be able to work with?
Shit, to be real, I would love to just have conversations with a lot of the biggest rappers in the game, you know, like I've had Dirk on before. I'd love to have Dirk on again. I'd love to do like a great young boy interview. I would love to do, you know, Lil Baby, whatever. I feel like I could do a better interview with a lot of these people than almost anybody else in the game. So, yeah, there's a ton of people that, to be honest, I think the biggest thing that holds me back, though, is that I just don't get out there enough. I think that if I was like at every show and if I was at every club and I was just meeting these people in like normal ass conditions, because I get so many interviews every time I just go out in public, because so many people fuck with you, but like you would just never think to hit them up. And then all of a sudden I'm in public and I'm just meeting people left and right, and I don't even know who they fucking are. My friends are having a whisper in my ear, that's so-and-so, you know. It's like I just feel like the thing that would make me be able to take the interview into the next level would just be to be more social. And it's like I'm just in this dad part of my life, so I don't really plan on it. But you know, that's probably the smartest thing I could do.
Yeah, that's something that I deal with too. Like, and sometimes I wonder, like, am I doing it wrong? Am I tripping? Cause like naturally, it's not me to be going do all that shit. Like, right. I don't even like parties for real. So like naturally, how I live my life, I like it. Yeah. But then I look and I be thinking like I'm cool with what I'm doing, but like, should it be bigger? Should it be this? Should it be that? I don't know. Like that's why I came to LA really to start getting into that, but I still really haven't even.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of people are like still, even in this social media age, you just think like I'll meet somebody in person, and I've followed them on Twitter for like 5 years, and they never followed me back, and I just never, you know, whatever, like you don't have to follow me back, and then I'll meet them in person, and they'll be like, I fuck with you, I watched this interview, whatever, and I'm like, what the fuck? Like I've been waiting for you to fucking follow me back or acknowledge me or something for all these years, and people are mad weird, like they just don't like, because to me, the whole podcast is just me watching YouTube, watching TikTok, watching Instagram, and I just find somebody, and I'm like, oh, this dude's tight, I'm gonna fucking DM him. And then he DMs me back, and then we do an interview, and that's it. And like, you know, I just had a fucking dude on who makes sandwiches on TikTok, and he's like lit off making sandwiches on TikTok. He's got money off of like making crazy ass sandwiches on TikTok, and he's like got 1 million subscribers, and it's like, but then you'll like meet actual famous people, and you realize that they just keep all the shit that they're interested in and that they're into to themselves. I met famous actors who were telling me that they watched like 100 episodes of my shit. I watched this, and I know they're telling the truth because they're telling me actual rappers, and I'm just thinking like, damn, you could have never shouted me out one time. You couldn't come give me an interview one time. Like, what the fuck? I appreciate it, but damn, I don't know.
What's your feelings on? Well, you already spoke on it, but like situations like with the T-Rail and Suspect thing, like. How do you feel about that? Like, do you feel like, damn, that's a bad look, or do you look at it like, all right, it's still content, it's gonna do what it do?
I mean, see, all right, right there. We are heavily incentivized to make content about us beefing with each other and shit, right? The same way that, like, bro, if like, I mean, but I just don't agree with moving that way. And I think we've done a little too much of it, and we got to be careful. And the T-Rail and Suspect thing was like just an honest moment where they were just getting into it, and then like cooler heads prevailed, and luckily it didn't turn into anything. But in general, it's like on any given day, you know, I'm trying to think of like lit ass rapper. And on any given day, Moneybagg Yo could get you know, millions of views on his story or whatever, and be posted on Academics if he were to talk shit about Lil Baby or some other rapper that he's cool with. But they don't do it, right? Because they move more solid than that. And it's like we have to learn from that and just really like not just take the bait to just talk about each other and just diss each other and everything like that. And I think that, you know, I've probably been part of the problem for sure at times. But I mean, there's a fine line between keeping it real and just fucking beefing with each other as a collective just to have something to talk about, which I feel like it has kind of devolved into at times.
So how does the live thing go? Like, you know, when sometimes it might be you going live or some of your crew members going live, like, do y'all discuss like the things that's gonna be talked about beforehand, or like it's just like they do what they do?
Sometimes, but yeah, we'll like go over topics and stuff, but we don't go into it like in full depth. We basically just pop the topics off and just go into it. You know, maybe some pre-planning could help in terms of like just getting the information out there smoother and everything, but for the most part, nah, we just kind of just go for it.
For sure. You don't think like that might be a good idea to do? Because like going back to the situation with Flacco, you know, like when I had, I don't know if I texted you or called you and asked you about the situation, it was like, I think you had said something like, oh, he was live, like I ain't had nothing to do with that. And you didn't have nothing to do with it, but would it been your brand? It's like you the face of it. You take, you know, you take the fall.
Yeah.
So it's like, you don't think it'll be smarter to like do things like that, to avoid things like that?
Well, I definitely thought about not putting that out just because it was just such a mess in general. But everybody wanted to put it out, and we had already talked about it on the No Jumper show, so it's kind of like there was no way that me and AD weren't going to talk about it right then because it was such a thing that.
No, I ain't talking about the interview.
Oh,
I'm talking about when he was live. He basically got somebody to go in there and call me a pedophile and some more shit.
Oh.
And that's when I called you. That was before the interview.
Oh, right, yeah. I mean, yeah, dude. I mean, trying to police what Flacco gets into is a lot. Like, I don't fucking know what he's getting into. Or, like, it sucks, honestly, because it's like sometimes he's having conversations that then I get dragged into and people think that I'm endorsing what the fuck he's talking about. And with him in particular, it can be rough because he definitely just says things that sometimes feel so divorced from reality. And there's a bunch of people in my life who I kind of have, like, weird, not issues, but like even Vlad, like fucking Flacco picking on Vlad, saying all this crazy shit about Vlad. And I was like, me and Vlad have a great relationship, and I know that there's part of him that's thinking like, why are you employing this dude who's just saying this crazy ass shit about me? But yeah, I don't know. There's like part of me that's just like, if I hire enough people, then nobody will really be able to blame me for any one of them in particular because it'll just be so clear that there's enough of them that I'm not in control. Which realistically is kind of how it is with all these live shows. I'm just not really, I don't know what the fuck they're talking about. And a lot of times when people complain to me, it's the first time I heard about it. But yeah, I mean, obviously it does ultimately come back to me. But I mean, it's just, you see what this business is. It's just a madhouse of just different personalities. And we find new personalities and crazy, wacky personalities and we bring them in and whatever. And, you know, it's just fucking sometimes, you know, you don't make an omelet without breaking a few eggs.
Yeah. You never like worry about like lawsuits? Like I wouldn't do nothing like that, but like certain situations, like somebody going there, you know, blatantly lie, do whatever, like, but it's the person that's on the actual brand doing it, like you don't worry about things like that.
I mean, it would be incredibly hard to sue me for having an opinion about a public figure.
Not an opinion, but a lie.
Right, but that's what I try to really avoid is like making declarative statements. That's why you will every title you see on, you know, different websites or whatever, it's always allegedly, this alleged killing, even if it's the most obvious thing in the world that this guy killed this girl, it's an alleged killing until it's proven in a court of law, right? So it's like the standard is unbelievably high in terms of like, you know, me saying something about a public figure. Like you look at the Tasha K thing with Cardi B, she had to really violate Cardi B and really make declarative, provably false statements about Cardi having herpes and other STDs and shit like that. And it's like, really what Cardi did is something that nobody fucking does, of actually taking a blogger or whatever to court and actually winning and getting a huge judgment against them. So do I worry about it? Not that much, because, you know, even like there was a girl on the podcast who said she fucked, what's his name, Tristan Thompson, basketball player dude that I don't know shit about. And I didn't really, like, she's talking about fucking him, and I'm not really, like, I'm drinking, actually, on that episode, which I never do. But for some reason, I got drunk on this episode. And this girl's talking about how she fucked him while she's dating a Kardashian, or while he's married to a Kardashian. And I'm drunk, and I'm not really that clued into this shit, so I'm not even thinking about what a big deal what she's saying is. And it comes out and it's viral and it's on all these blogs or whatever, and then I get hit up by him or his lawyer and they've asked me to delete it or whatever. But that's like more likely what it's going to be. They're going to ask you to delete it. If they could tell that it's not being done with malice, you know, because that's the thing with the Tasha K thing is like, it was pretty clear that she was lying, and, you know, it's like they probably tried to make a reasonable effort to get her to stop saying the things that she was saying, you know. So it's like, I'm committed to not lying on the podcast, which I think for the most part is pretty much like good enough legally, because even if you get something wrong, you basically just have to correct the record, and then it would be hard for a court to be like, oh, look at him acting with malice, trying to defame this person. I don't know.
All right, the last question I got, you kind of already spoke on it a little, but I want to ask you about like people asking you to like delete content. Like, how do you go about that?
They need a fucking great reason, right? I mean, it's got to be a good ass reason in order for me to actually delete something when this is like the whole thing that I'm doing with my life. Like, this is like you don't understand. Like, I had Danny Duncan is like a huge YouTuber. He's just like a white kid. He actually makes amazing videos. And like, I was just watching something the other day, and he just makes like super high quality vlogs, right? And like, he did an interview with me like 6 years ago, super early in his career. And he's talking reckless. I don't remember about what, but I think he's just talking about fucking girls and shit like that, you know? And it's like at a certain point he blows up. He got like many millions of subscribers, and he's kind of hitting me up like, bro, like, can you delete it? Like, I'll do a new one. I just want that one deleted, you know? And it's like, on one hand, it's like, it would be cool to me to be like a good buddy and delete it. But it's like, bro, that to me is history. Like, this is a real piece, like a document of where you were at in your life. And I kind of resent the fact that like, because me and you are sort of kind of friends and like we're cool with each other, that you feel like you could tell me to delete it. Because it's like, you know, like, this is what I do. Like, this would be like me telling you to delete your vlogs. Like, this is my art form. This is like, that's like telling Kanye to delete his fucking albums. I'm Kanye. Like, you just can't, I can't handle it, bro. Like, I'll burn the whole friendship down. And he's actually hit me up in recent memory and been cool and the shit like that. So I guess he doesn't hold it against me. But there's been a bunch of shit like that over the years. And sometimes it works. Like, you know, I had one where like, I entered a couple like fashion kids, and I think one of them was underage, like 16 or some shit. And they used that to get it taken down. Like, his mom was like a lawyer or some shit. And I don't even think they asked me to take it down. I think they just got it removed. And they used the fact that there was a young kid in it to get it removed. Now, in theory, that wouldn't work because we have releases for everybody. And also, I can't remember the last time we had like an underage kid on here, but whatever. Shit happened back in the day. But yeah, he was saying a bunch of crazy shit. So it's probably better off. His chances of going to college are definitely higher because that interview got deleted. Whatever, it ain't my problem.
Appreciate you for sitting down, you know, doing an interview with me. I know you got other shit going on the live, shit like that. So.
I'm missing the No Jumper Show live every Tuesday at 6 p.m. right now. But yeah, I appreciate you too. Thank you, bro.
623, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, man. Yeah, for sure. Keep doing your thing. I'm proud of you. Everything you're accomplishing and shit. It's like, you know, just keep going hard. I see big things in your future. I look forward to watching it all play out.
Oh yeah, another thing, I want to thank you for being like the first platform that I would say like that's like bigger than me that actually reached out to me and put me on there. I appreciate that.
Well, hey, you're a smart dude because you reached out to me and put me onto your shit before. Like, you basically just hit me up like a 1-paragraph DM, just basically telling me, you know. And I don't even think you said like I did Vaughn's first interview, which that alone probably would have made me like, all right, I gotta check this out right away. But you know, I just like, you know, you hit me up and like put it together nicely, so it was nice and easy for me to comprehend. It'd be like, oh, I got to check this kid out. Like, I don't want to be left out. Like, he really got something going on. So, I mean, yeah, anybody out there, I'm always happy to fuck with new content creators and help introduce people to the big leagues, I guess. You know, it's fun as fuck to me.
So, I know you don't need it, but since you're here, you know, let the people know how to get with you on social media.
Adam22 and No Jumper on TikTok, Instagram, Twitter, all that shit, pretty much. Got those ats on everything, and then No Jumper clips. That's it, really.
All right, let everybody know who got out with you.
16 shot him, got me in the building.
No, you got me in the building.
Oh, Adam22 is in the building. We had 16 shot visuals.
So
let's go.